Hey, good morning. All right, so we got an update. At this point, sitting at 16.5% profit from my Bitcoin entry. Everything else is doing well as well. Predicted this big play perfectly. That was a scalp last night where I got in and is up about 12%. So let me, you know what? Let's look at Bitcoin. I'm going to show you. Yeah, I'm up 30% on Ethereum. Obviously, my Matic trade was nuts. Now, I even posted these to Twitter and said, hey guys, I got in at these prices, or right when I got in at about 2 o'clock yesterday, 80% on Matic since my entry. Now, I did sell Matic and BNB. Then I reopened some other stuff. I got into, was it SRM or no, the JST. So I got into JST as well. That one's breaking out. So just to remind everybody, if you go back to Bitcoin. Now, yesterday I was talking about how we still have the potential for this big bullish recovery, and if it was going to happen, it was going to happen right here. So I have a couple things. I said if you go below the 30K, right? If you go back, I always say, when I do these short updates like this, you really want to go back and watch at least the last several videos I did, because it'll give you an idea of how I was able to predict like every single trend reversal really accurately. And that's just because my model is so simple and it's really, really accurate when it's locked in. Sometimes it's not locked in. Sometimes my model's just not in the zone, and a couple times in a row I might expect a bounce and it doesn't happen, and that's fine. And when that happens, I just don't rely on my model. I give it a day, or I give it a few hourly candles, whatever I need, let it reset, and then it takes over again. Well, recently my model has been scary accurate. Anybody who's been following me and watching my update videos knows. Obviously, the people in my private trading group, my VIP group, they're more than aware. But for people who were watching my public updates over the last 48 hours, I had this structure yesterday. I also tweeted about this as well. We had the downtrend, the trend line support here, and then we had the trend line resistance here. Now look at this. Look how, see, it goes all the way back since the big dump, right? Now we have the initial recovery at least. Now we actually are breaking above that trend line support right here, right? So you see we had, this is really cool because you can actually see you had 1, 2, 3, 4 candles that were going up against that trend line resistance before it finally broke through. So whenever I say, hey, there's a strong trend line resistance here, if we can break above that, then we could probably break out and go up much higher and really pump a little bit. When I say that, this is exactly what I'm referring to. Well, obviously that trend line was a very, very accurate trend line, because you can see there were 4 candles in a row that were pushing right up against it and wouldn't break through. And then finally we got above it. And as soon as we got above it, boom, we started pumping, right? So it's a really good example of how well trend lines work if you can identify them. Same thing with support and resistance, but trend lines are also extremely reliable if you know how to identify them properly. So now what do I expect? Looking at the 4-hour, we got the big bounce, exactly what I was predicting with the stochastic oscillator reversal. I've been doing several videos of late on the Stoke model, and that's really important, because if you can identify reversals based on the Stoke model, you can get into all these trend reversals. I predicted every single reversal since we bottomed out pretty much, and this is how. It's because of my stochastic oscillator model. If you don't know how to do it, obviously join my group. I'd be happy to teach you and mentor you, but you could probably figure out a lot of the stuff on your own. It's not that complicated. My models aren't that complex, and I was able to develop them pretty easily. Now people essentially pay me to teach them and mentor them because my models work so well. So if you can spend the time and do research and investigate different techniques and models and analysis tools, you can teach yourself just like I did. You don't necessarily have to join a group like mine. You can figure it out on your own. But I encourage everybody to invest the time and money to doing that, because if you can become a better analyst, you can become a much better trader. And it's a lot easier than you think. So, that being said, on the 4-hour, we did break above that trend line resistance. Now that we're above that trend line resistance, we're going to continue upward. And I think we're going to be extremely bullish, and we still have a really good chance for this long-term recovery. I think we might actually get a dip with this 4-hour reversal. So, you see how we had this dip on the left, and then the move up, and then the bigger dip down. Now we got a pretty aggressive pump back up to erase the last dip, right? But you also notice how the top of the Stoke is getting really high. See how we're overbought, and we're up here above 75? Since the Stoke is so high down at the bottom of the screen, we're probably going to start to come down on the Stoke again. When that happens, we're also going to come down on the price. So the big signal that would indicate that we're going to be in a continuous bull run is that we're going to start to come down a little bit. We're going to come back down maybe to like 36.5 or so to match what happened over here, right? And then we're going to end up with an inverted head and shoulders. A lot of the time I don't like to use inverted head and shoulders because it's not reliable for a few reasons. A lot of people mistake inverted head and shoulders, and they think that everything's an inverted head and shoulders, but it's really not. Let me fix that. Let's go with bright green. In this case, it actually is. So we can have something like that. You see it, right? Let me get a better color. It's kind of congested on this. This chart's kind of congested, but you can see just the general pattern, right? So you have the first shoulder, then the head, second shoulder. Now, a lot of the time, people identify head and shoulders or inverted head and shoulders, and it's really not an application where I would use that. In this particular case, it would be perfect because what we're essentially seeing when you do see that is an ABC correction, and then a 1, 2, and then wave 3. So one of the other things I talked about was if I did this Elliott wave count on one of my prior videos. I'm sorry, the screen, I know there's a lot going on the screen. It might look a bit intimidating, but trust me, it's pretty simple in reality. The bottom of this dump here on the left, right? So that next move up was wave 1. This ABC correction was wave 2. So based on that model, I predicted that wave 3 would take us back to 51.5. So my target for wave 3 is 51.5. The one thing I'm going to say is keep in mind, I'm not saying it's guaranteed we're going to continue all the way up. It is possible we could turn bearish again, but since we hit the bottom of 30K, I haven't skipped a beat. I've been bullish the entire time. Every time there's a dip, I've been buying more. My group has been buying more. Last night before I went to bed, 8 hours ago, I told everybody in my group, if you've been waiting to get in or if you haven't gotten in yet, you might not want to wait longer. We might get a short-term dip based on the lower time frames, but we're at the point now where if we're going to start going up, you might want to consider getting in if you can afford the risk. So we're definitely going along with pretty much everything I've been anticipating and predicting for the last 3 or 4 days. So I'm still really confident we're going to get this bull run. I'm still really confident we're going to go into a recovery run and continue the bull market and go right up to 51K or 52K before getting another correction, although not a very big one, and then continuing back to all-time highs. I haven't missed a beat. I've been expecting that since I called for the bottom a few days ago, and at this point, I still think it's highly likely we go to 51.5. I just wouldn't enter right now because the Stoke is so high on the 4 hour. The best way to play this now would be to wait for this 4 hour stochastic oscillator to turn down and come back a little bit. You'll see the price retrace a little bit, just like I drew here with the yellow line, right? So we're currently right here where it shows the top of this formation. So we're right at like 38 and change, 38.2. So I would expect to come up and then come down a little bit. Now, if we were to keep pushing up and break above this 55 EMA right here and then into the Ichimoku cloud, if that happens, we're skyrocketing straight into the 50s. So you could just FOMO in if you want. But until that happens, I'd say it's probably worth waiting for a little dip, even if it's a very small dip and then it continues upward. In other words, even if you could buy right now, but the dip happens a little bit later and comes down only slightly so that entry would be higher than the current price. I'd rather buy in later at a slightly higher price, but have confidence that we're going to get a big run. Because look at my model, right? Imagine if you just did what I do. Imagine if you did what I predicted and you were following all my videos. 1, 2, 3 on the bottom. Look at the bottom of the Stoke. 1, 2, 3. You see the 3, 1, 2, 3. 3 bottoms of the Stoke. The first one, all the way on the left over here, was at 30K. That was the big initial recovery bounce. The next bottom of the Stoke was the next big bottom right here at 34, right? 33, 34. And then that got the bounce. The next bottom here was right here and 30, 31, and now we started this recovery run from there. So if you were to wait until the Stochh were to come down and reset one more time and buy the next bottom, even if the price is a little higher than we are now, you know it's going to be the bottom of the next move. And you always want to get into the bottom of the next move, not the top of the current move, right? So I don't think it's a good idea to necessarily jump in now, but if you did get in last night and you followed my lead, for people in my group, I didn't share an analysis publicly before bed, but everybody in my group knows that I was talking about getting in last night. You're already in a great position. I wouldn't even take profit unless you really just need to. I would hold long term expecting this big recovery. Now, I have taken profit on some trades. Like I got into Matic and sold at 25%, but now it's up 75%. I wish I held more of it. And BNB I sold for 25%. So I've already taken some profit, and the reason I did that was just purely out of strategy. Right now, if the entire market tanks and all of my stop losses get hit, I made a really nice profit yesterday because my model was so goddamn amazingly precise by selling those trades. So I was happy to leave those trades and walk away knowing that I had enough profit to cover any losses. Even if the market tanks right now and I have to leave the rest of my trades, I know that I made enough profit yesterday. So I'll at the very least break even and quite possibly walk away with an additional profit, right? So that's my update for now. I'll do another one later. If you're in the group, I'll be available all day. My family's coming to visit from out of town, so I'll be a little less available. I might not do as many update videos and everything, but if you do need me, especially if you're in the premium group, just shoot me a DM. We can get on the phone if you wanted to have a review session, do a review for strategy or something like that. I'm available for voice calls for premium members only, obviously. All right, that's it for now. I'll do another update later. Trade safe and trade smart.